Okay, right. Well, let's crack on. Let's dive in. David, do you want to share your screen there? Because we've got a draw to do for last week. Okay, so essentially what we're doing is we're giving away a $250 Nike voucher. What we're going to do is instead of giving a voucher because we've trouble with that, we're going to get you to fill a basket full of $250 of Nike stuff, and we'll just ship that out to you essentially. Let's go. Let's give it a spin.
Let's go. Hey, Shitana, if you won the night basket on there, congratulations.
Eddie, awesome. And that's fantastic. So today what we're going to be giving away is a just drawing a blank for a quick second. We're giving away a voucher for a Ninja. So you can, whether you want to get a Ninja Creamy, Ninja Crispy, an air fryer, whatever it is that you want. If you share this screen here, you can get. So I think I'll leave this screen sharing for a second. And essentially what we're going to do is just like start. And I think it would be nice for us to have like an open discussion about like our experience trying to help like parents in particular. Um, I think it's a notoriously difficult one. There can be a degree of stubbornness there, but also like the emotional attachment that you have to the individuals because you're so close with them. Instead of being like empathetic, you can end up being like pissed off. I so like for me, the major thing I would experience this with would be my mom. To be fair, my dad's like as fit as possible. But my mom, I'd find myself like I wouldn't have that like never ending empathy. That is maybe necessary. And this is something I've kind of like learned to do a better job at. But I remember like for years it would have been the case of just like, why aren't you resistant training? Like that is a non-negotiable. Everybody should be doing that. Like, here's a gym membership, go try train 3 times a week. And just not super helpful. It's just not super helpful. There always is going to be that degree of like pushback towards it. Um, so now my mom trains, but it's been a long time getting her into that. And I think it'd just be cool for us to have a discussion around that. So coaches, any of you want to chime in and give a bit of an insight into what's happened for you?
Yeah.
Oh, you can go first, David. Go on.
I think for me, I never even realized how much an impact my parents would have. Like my dad loves walks, absolutely loves walks. No matter what's going on, he will happily go for a walk. And then that's actually impacted me now as I'm growing up. I also like to get my steps in as well. And then realizing that the same as KMAC, obviously affecting generation after generation after generation. It's a good thing to look at in the family as well, especially when they might forget. If my dad wants to drive everywhere, I was like, you used to walk. Why don't we walk again? And it's good to get that feeling back again and knowing that it's something you can also do as a family, whether you do it with your mom, whether you do it with your dad, siblings as well. It's good to get that socializing time and still get your steps in and still be healthy. So for me, it's always been an amazing thing. Even when I was younger, bike rides with my dad. I've got a really funny story. I remember there was a very, very steep hill going down with my bike. This is probably the last time I went on a bike ride with my dad. I was riding, got scared of the hill, crashed into him and fell, hurt my arm. Never went on a bike ride again. But we're still active. I don't go on a bike ride with him. We go separately now on there. But it's always making sure that how can we stay active? How can we, whilst we're growing up, what is it that we can do to stay healthy at that time as well? And I think as a family, and my family especially, we always look at those different benefits that we can get just from either going on a walk or going on a bike ride or even going swimming on that factor as well.
Cool. Okay, so essentially it's always been the case that your dad has been like physically active and he's still as active now.
Yes, definitely. I think definitely always getting steps in. And I look up to that. I look up to that to get that in for myself as well. So as I grow up, if I can also do that for my children, it's just gonna cause a nice, healthy generation going on.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I understand what you're saying there. How about you, Tanya? Anything in particular pop up?
So I think there is a little bit of a difference why different generations approach fitness differently. For me, personally right now in this moment is aesthetic. I'm doing the photo shoot. Whereas for generations, like for my mom, she's going to go into this more from the health perspective, wanting to feel good on a daily basis, wanting to, when she gets older, being able to go up the stairs, things like that, functional. And I think when we're approaching our friends, family, and older parents, just knowing what we have behind it, like what's the intention of that, because we have to understand the goals might be different. And I think it's very powerful to approach it from a point where we say, I want to practice fitness, I want to eat healthier, or whatever that might mean for you, from a perspective of I want to be here for you longer. I want to be able to play with your grandchildren. I want to be able to run with you, like your dad, with you, because I want to keep up with you and your life. So I think it's just important to approach that. And in my mom's experience, I can see now that she basically wants to keep up with me, to be honest, because after a meal, I say I'm going for a walk, and she now goes for a walk because she wants to spend time with me. Now, that not to say that if she didn't go for a walk with me, I would be like, okay, bye, I'm not spending time with you. It's more like she wants to do that because she knows that this is going to make her healthier. It's going to obviously have all the other benefits, which we all know about. But yeah, that was my experience. And obviously that goes into nutrition, which we can touch on later on as well.
Ajay, anything in particular pop up for you?
I would say similar to what David said around his dad. So my dad, being South Asian as well, I have a history on my dad's side of cardiovascular disease. And my dad's brother was a marathon runner, so kind of always filtered down to me to like be active, and grew up from my father and my parents showing me to be active, like play lots of sports and those kind of things. And I think as he's grown older, he's never really understood the importance of what you were saying before, Dia, of resistance training and how that is super important, especially as you age going forward. Funnily enough, we went away recently, about 3, 4 months ago, and I took him into the gym in the first time in the morning, and he was like, whoa, like we can actually do this. Like this is actually a positive thing to do on holiday, to work out together, to have fun. And it was funny to see like his confidence just grow just from that session going forward. But yeah, I definitely believe it's a generational thing. And I think back to 25, 30 years ago, the whole fitness space was maybe only for those who were looking to do bodybuilding per se. Whereas now, I would say much more applicable and approachable for everyone. And definitely, science backs that. So we should all definitely be pushing others to do the same. And I think being South Asian as well, I found it in the extended family, me doing a photo shoot, getting to amazing shape. Others are kind of like, oh, how did you do that? I want to look like that. I want to have abs like that. So it definitely can filter down across your extended family if you are the one kind of leading the way.
Okay. So essentially, like I think you use training on holidays is a great little example there of like one, how do you get him starting to begin to resist and train whilst not just like telling him what to do or like giving him a training program. Like these things aren't going to be super helpful, but like use doing it together, actually going through a workout together. Like one of the big things that I did that actually got like my mom into it in particular was actually during COVID. Like during COVID, we just trained together. Just train together. I would do my workout. She would do a very, very different workout. It was cute. Like it was a nice little thing to do. I actually do miss it now. But like, I think if you were trying to get, whether it's a loved one or like whether it's like a husband or wife or whether it is a parent, if like you could begin to like resist and train together, I think that would be absolutely awesome. Now I do get that we don't get to see our parents as much as we might like to, but when we do get that opportunity, maybe it is the case. Maybe it's resistance training, maybe it is a walk, something like that is definitely going to be helpful to like incorporate in. So in terms of like overarching things, when we're trying to help individuals with behavior change, Gabs, is there anything in particular that kind of pops up for you for helping people with behavior change?
I think, it just comes to like meeting people where they're at. For example, like with my situation, my family, my father has Parkinson's disease, so he has limitations when it comes to his physical fitness. So we focus a lot more on his nutrition. That's more applicable for him, right? So it's little changes here and there, right? Using a little bit less oil, trying to focus more on quality of foods, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's really just trying to like figure out what works best for the person and, tweaking and meeting them where they're at. So.
Okay. Yeah. So like one of the things I've done, I know we're going to discuss it in nutrition in a little bit more detail, but it's like with my mom and dad, like once I went and I just did a food shop with them. I did a food shop with them, and I was like, look, these are the things that I kind of want you to do. And it's always like an approach oriented goal as well. It's not just like telling people not to eat X, Y, and Z. It's more so like, look, I'm going to go through, we're going to pick out some protein servings, we're going to pick out some veggie servings. Here's some like frozen things that you can purchase that like you can just have there for when you need. And I think that was probably one thing that can be quite helpful to do, or something else that you could also do as well is just like the organization of like an online food shop. You could go through and kind of create like this online food shop of things that would be helpful, things that are a little bit more protein heavy, less calorie dense, getting in plenty of fruit and veg, just all of these like really, really basic behaviors that we all should be doing, but actually helping them have them foods available is going to be really helpful there. Ajay, in terms of like your go-tos when it comes to like behavior change, what are you kind of thinking about and considering there?
Well, I was going to touch on one when you were just talking about how you implemented it with your parents. There is collaboration generally from a family standpoint. So that is a huge thing for me because everyone has their own says, their own preferences when it comes to their particular dinners, their particular snacks, maybe their particular breakfast choices. So sitting down, number one, collaborating together, whether it's an online shopping grocery list, whether it's actually writing a couple of options down, first and foremost, I would say is like one of the biggest things you can do. And as you said, like picking out those grocery options that are okay, where are proteins coming from? Where are veggies coming from? Initially, I'd also say for me, looking at the calendar, every family has a calendar. Every family is busy, whether especially if you have young children, right? And I actually have done this with a few of my clients in the past, where especially now, their children are returning back to school. We've got all these extracurricular activities happening, and it can feel overwhelming, especially if you've been in the program, you're feeling like, oh, how the hell am I going to be able to navigate through all these new things as well as my program, my training, everything else? So what we looked at was what are the staples? Now, the staples are always going to be your kids first. So the kids' activities came first. When were they happening? So there was soccer practice 2 nights a week. There was drop-off times every day, Monday through Friday. There was pickup times. So once we've got the staples down, we can find and identify the opportunities of when grocery shopping can happen, when meal prepping can happen, and then training can kind of follow suit from that as well.
Okay. So if I was like to take that and apply it to like one of my parents, I would essentially like sit down with them and be like, okay, what are the bits that you have going on throughout your week? When are we going to make time for X, Y, and Z? When are we going to make time for a walk? When are we going to make time to do a degree of an exercise, whether that is like resistance training or Pilates or yoga or whatever it is? Can we like bake these things into our schedule essentially?
100%, yeah, because we want to meet you guys where you're currently at. And if it feels super overwhelming, you feel like you're not going to be able to do the things you currently love. So we want to make sure they are staples in there. And then we can look at, okay, when are those extra elements of time where we can, like you touched on, meal prep, get the training in, collaborate on choosing some groceries, etc. from there. And I think every family will find there are plenty of opportunities to do that. It's just about collaborating and having that discussion.
Cool. Awesome. So anything else that kind of like pops up here around behavior change? I think one of the things that I've actually got, it's been really lovely. I've been doing like running the KMAX seniors program. It's just given me a real insight into things. Like fortunately enough, like my parents are, well, my dad is as fit and as healthy as they come. Like he's absolutely fine. My mom's getting a little touch older now, but like with the KMAX senior program, it's actually being really nice to see what the kind of problems that people are facing at like, and being able to think about like, okay, cool, how do we kind of overcome these things? One of the overarching things that we see popping up is just like low energy, low energy, and this idea of doing this big like extensive what like resistance training program, isn't super feasible. So when it comes to like trying to find this kind of minimum effective dose or starting to move in the correct direction, Tanya, how do we go about like just beginning to add small behaviors and get small routines in place?
I think this is where it's really important how we speak to our parents, instead of what language we're using. I remember early on when I started in fitness in the industry, I was saying to my mom, you need to do this, you need to do this, you should. We kind of disconnect when people talk to us like that. But then as she was going through menopause and all of this, things that a woman go through, I came from a point where I was trying to educate her and explain, okay, so this is happening right now. What will be useful for you is this and this. Let's do it together. And I remember going to visit her once, and I said, well, why don't we go to the gym together? I'll show you what to do. I'll show you around, or you tell me what you are doing around, because she was going to the gym, but she was going to the sauna. And then I realized that, which is not necessarily bad, but I said, well, let's visit other rooms in the, big gym. And that she kind of enjoyed that. And the same with nutrition point. Instead of her complaining about certain things, I said, okay, I get it, but this is why this is going to be important to you, or this is why you need to, increase your protein. Then I took her to shopping. I said, this protein powder is going to be good for you. Drink it then, and then. And all of our clients have, the education. So I think this is something they can, implement as well. So education, I think, is very important, and how we speak to them, And another thing is inviting them to do it with you. So instead of saying, cook this for me, let's say, let's cook this together. Or let me cook something new for you. And at the end, they don't even notice the difference in taste. For example, my mom didn't. And she's like, oh, what did you do? What was the difference? Well, instead of frying it, I basically used the air fryer. We can touch on that later, but it's just about these little things where you can kind of trick them into healthier habits.
Yeah, and that is a lot of it there. It's like, how do I not make massive changes, but I make subtle changes that are no real big deal, leading to pretty much the exact same outcome, but like health wise, things are in a very different position. So when it comes to kind of like just our general rules for like nutrition modifications that we can make, Tanya, I know you've got a couple of good ones there.
So the first one that my parents did is they got an air fryer, which is obviously something that is very useful. Second thing is, I mean, I don't know if you know a lot about Eastern European culture. We do like big portions. I kind of think that's, I don't know, we have in common with everybody. But my mom loves to cook a lot. Like, it's a big portion. So we kind of cut down on portions, which I kind of educated her on. And I said, we don't have to keep eating. We can kind of spend time doing something else. So that was one of the biggest ones. And then, as I mentioned before, incorporating a little bit more protein, because a lot of the food that we have eaten is carbs, which again, quite, in common with all of the cultures. So I kind of explained how she can add certain things into the food, or maybe change up the protein, decrease a little bit of carbs, how she does them. Those are the first three that come to mind, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more actually come up.
I know you mentioned as well, like instead of using like a paste, to use like dry herbs instead.
Yeah, so this is something that obviously I suggest to my clients as well. So when you're cooking something with sauces, using dry herbs and spices is much better than using, full sauce. Another thing is adding a little bit more volume to the carbs. So cauliflower rice instead of the full rice. There's also one amazing video on Facebook by our coach, Felicia, who goes into a little bit more detail about that as well. What else was there? I feel like my brain is now empty, but I have the notes. Air frying. And when we use the roti, using wraps instead, tortilla, something like that. That is, I know it's not the same in taste, but after a while you kind of, remember what the goal is. So these little things can actually kind of make a big difference.
Yeah, and even little things on the roti side of things, even like just using like a besan flour or a chickpea flour there instead of like a normal white flour. Again, it's a tiny little change, but it'll increase protein there a little touch. all of the modifications that we make to use as clients are going to also apply to parents as well, whether it's like on the paneer front using like a Verca paneer, it's slightly higher in protein, slightly lower in dietary fat, trying to incorporate in like tofu. I eat tofu every single day. It's quite boring, I do understand, but it is a really helpful way of getting like a veggie protein source in. But even like rotating that between using like a edamame bean or a tempeh instead, like trying to have some degree of like a soy based a soy based protein serving in there is going to be helpful. Another thing is incorporating either whether it's a protein shake or a serving of like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. If we can do something like that, so we're getting in serving of soy, so tofu, edamame beans, or tempeh, and then we're getting in a serving of protein through a dairy product, whether that's cottage cheese, a Greek yogurt, or like a Verca paneer. Again, if you can do that yourself or get a parents to do that. That's them getting in an additional like 40 to 60 grams of protein that didn't exist otherwise. I think like one of the other major things is just like when it comes to oils, trying to use like a measurement to measure out the oils. So instead of just like free pouring oils, can we grill things or bake things a little bit more frequently? And when we are cooking with oils, can we use like a 5 ml spoon just to standardize the serving size of oil there as well?
Yeah, or just spray in general.
I like a Frylight spray.
Yeah.
Frylight sprays are always going to be a shout there as well. And then one of the other things is just like actually trying to, and this applies to clients as well, just trying to actually eat more. We always go through like this process of like restriction, but that's not super helpful. If we can just eat more fruit and veg, it's going to be nothing but helpful. And like the goal is not always body fat loss. Maybe body fat loss is not helpful for this individual. Maybe they just need to focus on like eating enough calories so that they can be nice and strong and fit and healthy and not have any like glaring micronutrient deficiencies. I think again, like using a multivitamin is always a relatively safe shout, no matter the individual. But I think the big thing that we're kind of like chatting about here is more fruit, more veg, more protein, and like getting in some form of like physical activity in the form of resistance training as well.
Yeah, definitely. I also think having a bit of a staple around family dinners is key. So utilizing the swaps that Tanya and Dee have talked about would be really useful for those that maybe rituals are around eating maybe the dal, the roti, those kind of meals weekly, but you can still eat them in a very healthier way by utilizing some of those swaps. Maybe it might be a case if your children don't like that, and that's okay that you prepare the roti in the normal way, but you might try the wraps, for example, so you can still come together and have that family meal that is a staple and a ritual as part of your family as well.
Yeah, 100%. Just two questions that came into the chat there. So what are our take on natural sugars and fruit? There's absolutely nothing to worry about there whatsoever. Like nothing to worry about whatsoever. Like whether we're talking about just like the glucose or the fructose in it, it doesn't matter whatsoever. Essentially, as much fruit as you can get in, the better. That is simply the case. Even in the forms of like fruit juices, yeah, they're a little bit more calorie dense and less satiating, but they're still like overarchingly health promoting. I would generally eat the whole food version of it, but no, the sugars and fruit are not a concern in the slightest. And then any swaps for like a Quest chip for something like less processed. So my only problem with the Quest chips is, well, one, they're absolutely banging. So like they're absolutely delicious. But the only problem that I'd run into with the Quest chips is just the fact that they're going to lead to your overall sodium for the day being a little touch higher. So there's nothing like inherently detrimental about them, just the fact that they're just a little bit higher in salt. In terms of like swaps there that you could incorporate in, guys, what are we thinking? Essentially, we're just looking for a snack of that's 20 grams of protein.
Protein shake for me, but I guess again, similar to maybe processed.
I always go for a Greek yogurt. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's always my go-to. Greek yogurt, berries, some granola. That is like never going to fail me. So,
like a air fried edamame bean, or I know in the States they do these lovely packets of like flavored edamame beans. Again, that's another great shout as well. So going with a protein shake, I wouldn't necessarily worry about the degree of processing of a food. As a general heuristic, ultra processed foods are detrimental to health, but on an individual food level, there's plenty of like ultra processed foods that are generally health promoting. Like whey protein would fall into the category of that. So using some whey there wouldn't be a problem whatsoever. Going with the edamame beans is also a shout. Even doing something like protein shake and some rice cakes can be a little bit dry, to be fair, but it's fun. It's still a fun snack.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it.
Boiled eggs would work well as well. Or even if you were to do like one boiled egg and two like egg yolks boiled, or egg whites, not the yolks, sorry. Would be a nice way of like getting total protein up without additional calories being too high there. And then just question coming in there in terms of like the flavored Greek yogurts, they work absolutely fine. They're a great little show. Like any of them, the dairy based iterations of yogurt, whether they are the ones that are like there's loads of them now.
Yeah. Sorry, like Skia and those kind of ones.
Oh yeah, like if you can get like a 0% one of them and 0% fat Greek yogurt with 10 grams of protein per 100 grams, they end up being like 64 to 74 calories per 100 grams. They're elite, like they're great for fat loss for health. Decent way of getting protein in, decent way of getting your calcium intake up a little touch. And like as a general rule for people who haven't been advised otherwise, like dairy is perfectly fine, particularly low fat dairies. Anything else on the nutrition side popping up for you? I'm just going to read this next question. As you know, I can't. I need a minute to read it.
Another one for me, I'd say for writers and those kind of staples, easy, like Gabby said, Greek yogurt, 0% Greek yogurt, an easy substitute. A little bit more high protein and obviously zero fats from that point of view as well. Would be a nice substitute, and trying to include Greek yogurts as much as possible alongside, say, for example, you're eating dal, just an easy way to up your protein within that main meal as well.
Yeah, I think the like overarching theme here is like it's just little tiny changes that can make a really big impact to where the point where your family members that are, participating with these little changes, they barely notice the difference. Like you still get the experience that you were having, but with these little adjustments that can have overall, over time, a very big impact on our health.
Yeah, definitely. Even adding on I remember my parents, even though as healthy as my dad was, he would have a big sweet tooth. I could have a nice healthy meal, but then after that meal, if it would be something like
That's the treat.
or chocolate, you'd have to have it. But then like a little change, like you said, Gabby as well, was just changing it to maybe like a dark chocolate or a piece of dark chocolate.
Exactly.
Something so small made such a big difference. So now when I go into the house, I see dark chocolate, I think, okay, it's working. It's a good nice little swap to have in there that can make a big difference on that.
Okay, just a couple of questions coming in the chat there. In terms of protein shakes without artificial sweeteners, I couldn't give you a brand off the top of my head, but I also wouldn't necessarily be worried about the sucralose or the aspartame or any of the additional artificial sweeteners in the serving sizes that we see them in protein powders. It wouldn't be something that would make that move that food from the category of something that's health promoting to something that's health subtracting. So I wouldn't be worrying about there whatsoever. In terms of the protein density and things like beans and lentils, they're just not very protein dense. Like the serving size that you have to consume in order to achieve like a 25-gram serving of protein is like, it would have to be quite a large serving size that your overall calories end up being overshot. So whilst it's a perfectly health promoting food, like beans, grains, like nuts, legumes, they all fall into that category of perfectly health promoting foods. But then when it comes to getting like total protein in, they're not the most helpful for doing that. So it can be nice to add in like additional servings of like, whether it is the tofu or the edamame beans, or having some cottage cheese or a protein shake on the side to these meals to bump up the total protein. And then Jay's lavish wrap with cottage cheese and hot honey sounds like a shout, to be fair.
Sounds so good.
Unreal.
Great shout, Jay.
Cool.
Soon.
Okay. So then just to kind of like wrap things up, essentially, the overarching thing is like trying to, as close as we are to our loved ones, that can actually be detrimental for behavior change because we're so close to it that we end up getting like frustrated and like annoyed as opposed to having that like never ending empathy. And if we can try our best to have that, it's going to be nothing but helpful. The overarching thing that we've said here is doing things together, whether that's going for walks together, whether that's like doing the first couple of resistance training sessions together, whether that's food and like creating some meals or doing a food shop together. Little things like this are going to be incredibly helpful. Trying to like lead from the front and set an example is always going to be like one of the most important things that you can do. Like if you're doing something very, very consistently, and it's not just a phase, like you're not going to change somebody's behaviors from doing like 4 months on KMAC. But 2.5 years of nailing these things very quickly, these behaviors do rub off on other individuals. Then on the nutrition side of things, it's just trying to find enjoyable ways of incorporating in more fruit, more veggies, and more protein. Like one of the other most important things is just like getting people more active. If you can get somebody to have like a 10-15% increase in their physical activity in the form of steps. So maybe they're doing 5,000 steps a day. If we can get that up to 6,000 steps, that is a major win that actually will have carryover in terms of an individual's like diabetes risk, cardiovascular disease risk, all-cause mortality. If we can get some people's steps up is also really, really important. And then a degree of resistance training offers a unique benefit that supersedes things like a yoga and a Pilates when it comes to like muscle mass accumulation and bone mineral density and fall risk. So again, like just to give you a bit of an insight, we do have like a KMAC seniors program. We're not, unfortunately, it's not something that we're going to be able to launch to a lot of people. We just don't have the infrastructure in place as of right now, but we are slowly taking on more senior clients. I'll give you a bit of an insight into what that looks like because it is very, very different to our normal KMAC coaching program. Essentially, what we do is like we try to do with all KMAC clients is we meet the individual where they're at. If they have been resistant training, they've been in the gym already, wonderful. Then we can treat you a little bit more like a usual client. If you've absolutely no resistance training experience, what I do myself is we will sit down and we do 2 workouts a week. So we'll log on and we'll do 20 to 30 minute workouts where we'll go through like bodyweight exercises or we'll use some light weights. It's all really like just like basic standard exercises of doing like a hip thrust. Can we work our way up to where we can do like a variation of a squat, not necessarily a normal squat? Can we do some like bicep curls and like shoulder presses and all of these exercises that are just going to have like a carryover to an individual's like coordination levels of muscle mass and like also just like the fun of it as well. Like my senior coaching is it's a highlight of my day. It's honestly such a nice thing to do. We just jump on, we have a little bit of a chat, we do nice exercises. I'll give really like broad stroking general advice, so it's nothing super specific because a lot of these individuals who will have like medical professionals who will be giving them advice already, so it will just be around like focusing on nice like lifestyle bits. Can we do a little bit more walking? Can we try get an earlier bedtime? Can we do some good strength training? Little things like that. If you do want a little bit more information on that, just shoot me. You'll be able to find my WhatsApp in the community call. Just shoot me a little message on it, and I can give you a little bit more information on that. But before we wrap things up, guys, have you got anything in addition to add, or will I just do this draw again?
I think just to add on what we said at the very start as well, is just like being able to lead by example. Like I said about my dad, I was able to follow that. I think you're always influenced by something or who can be the bigger influence. So if you're being healthy, if you're being active, someone's going to be influenced by that, whether it's your parent, whether it's your daughter, your son, it will help someone in some way. So I think definitely it's a big importance of like, yeah, leading by example, I'd say.
I think leading by example, and then also find things that like they enjoy, whether it's pickleball, maybe swimming, something that can be almost a hobby as well is a great way to, get the family moving, get your parents moving. I know my family's quite competitive, so anything that has to do with winning, they're into that. So, yeah.
Yeah, my family painfully competitive as well. My dad's like a pretty damn good runner. Like he'll run like a 90-minute half marathon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's
Decent.
pretty decent. Like,
Yeah.
now my mom, she tries. She's training. She's training. I'm only taking the piss. She's training, and that's the most important thing. She's exercising. That's the real thing there. We don't need any special or specific programs to be following. Can we just do more movement? And even just from a psychological perspective, being able to burn off some energy throughout the day, being able to build a little bit more muscle mass, it's nothing but beneficial.
My grandparents, they have a little competition going. Actually, they swim. My grandfather's 93 years old. He swims the length of one football field every day, rain or shine, doesn't matter. And he contributes that to the reason that he's still, kicking. And I think that's a big thing, right? You just got to keep it moving, get moving and keep it moving. So
Awesome. Awesome. And guys, as I said, if you share this on your Instagram, and if you tag, sorry, I did forget to say this, if you tag your coach, either myself or David for the time being, because Sam is off, and tag KMAC Fitness, you'll be entered into a draw to win that $250 of a Ninja of your choice, essentially, whether that's a Creamy or an air fryer or whatever it is.
Wanted to say something quickly. The KMAC team, whilst we were in New York, we had the amazing opportunity to visit the 9/11 memorial, which was, it was a difficult couple hours to be in there. It was very touching, and it was, definitely gave us a very different perspective on what happened that day. And it being, 9/11, we just wanted to, recognize that and, just acknowledge what happened as a team, as a community. So
yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Is just one more question that's after coming in there, so I'll just get to that before we jump off. In terms of like any substitutes that we can make for oils for cooking that offer the same like the same like taste and texture, essentially. Unfortunately not. Like the taste of the food is not going to be as nice. Like that is just kind of the reality there. But if we don't need to completely reduce the oils, we can just minimize our use of them. Like that's essentially what we need to be doing there. Just using like the 5 ml spoons for weighing out and standardizing our serving sizes is the major thing that we can do there. But there will be a change in the taste of these things, but we don't have any other like modification that we could make there. And then in terms of like from a health perspective, the like cooking with like a canola oil is absolutely fine. Like whether it's a canola oil or an olive oil, they're going to be your two best like cooking oil options essentially. I'm not familiar with the coconut aminos. I will look into them. Could be an option. Cheers, guys. That's us for today. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.